So we came across this story yesterday, and as bad as it seems, and maybe as senseless perhaps is a better word as it seems, we figured we should try to understand what's going on because it just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Quebec's financial situation, yes, we know it's bad. We know about the deficit, right? And we know there will be cutbacks. You heard the story suggesting that the new head of Santé Quebec is going to have to find $1 billion, that's with a B, $1.5 billion to cut from the healthcare budget. But you know what? There are things you cut back and there are things you shouldn't cut back. And I think this is one of those stories. So people living in CHSLDs, this one doesn't make any sense at all, at least not to me, who would at Christmas time, right? Little bit of a joy, would sit down with family and get turkey and stuffing. It's Christmas. But this year, they won't be. Instead, it'll be the same old hospital tray. As I said, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. Paul Brunet, who we have on from time to time, patients' right advocate, is on the line. Paul, I don't know. We know times are tough. We know financially the government is looking to save here and there. Does this seem like complete overkill to you?
Yeah, I think so, Aaron. Listen, with all the things that we've said, heard, and wrote and read about what's going on about the cuts, I mean, do you really have to do that kind of cut? What I heard from the ministry, though, is that the official Christmas meal seems to be organized by the foundation of the hospital and the users committee. I haven't been able to talk to the users committee, but apparently they are the one who organize it. But notwithstanding this, and this is Christmas, how about putting a little more money on the part of the authority and make sure that we have a Christmas meal for all patients, all residents? I mean, like you're saying, we're not asking for much. We know they're cuts, but to me, it's a little ridiculous and certainly insulting for the patients.
So when you deal with these patients who deal with their families on a regular basis, were they told, were they advised, any idea that this was coming?
Well, I guess they were informed because they told the Gazette, and that's when the Gazette reported the situation and the cut. But, I'm just asking the authority, just be human for a little while during Christmas time. Make it special. Make it a special meal, turkey and stuff, we're not asking for a lot, but sometimes even the small things that we're not asking for millions of dollars, Aaron. We're asking for a couple of $100s and serving something special for patients.
I mentioned, Paul, off the top about what's going to happen now in Santé Quebec. First thing first that the new head has to do is go find $1.5 billion to lop off the system. We haven't talked a lot specifically about CHSLDs. So overall, what's happening with CHSLDs? Are budgets being slashed there? Have you heard? Has the government given you any kind of a warning?
Oh, yes. The unfortunate phrase that was said by the minister, because in September, the deputy minister, Mr. Pagé, told the CIUS and CIS, including CHSLD, you do not cut on services. Don't do that. And now we heard the minister, with all the respect I have for him, in a very candid fashion saying, oh, well, yes, there's going to be an impact for patients. There's going to be cuts. Why did he say that? You really think that we need to have that kind of information? You really think that the authority of CIS and CIS will not use this to, hey, let's do it? Because normally administration is part of, the CIS and the CIUS thing. If they are allowed not to cut on those things, they're going to cut elsewhere, where patients are going to be affected. Why did he have to do that? I mean, we know for a fact that you can cut a lot of stuff administratively without touching patients. One example, Aaron, for the past 5 years, the CAC hired 4,000 managers in the health system. Did it get better since then? No. How about telling those people who were just hired, hey, we're going to call you back as soon as we have money. This is $400 million right there, Aaron. But they're not going to do that. Why? Why aren't they cutting where it doesn't hurt the patients?
To your point, if you could say that hiring these extra people has made things better, that would be one argument. You're saying nothing has changed.
No, nothing has changed, Aaron. So, first, why do we hire more managers whereas we need more people on the floor? I was talking with Mr. Carman, the minister. He wanted to put this bill, now it's adopted, to make the first protector of youngsters. And I told Mr. Cameron, you guys, you always, want to make a higher structure with a higher head and higher salary, while we need people on the floor,
right,
in the units. I mean, I don't know what's the idea, but it's not very productive, and certainly not meeting what we need. We're already having problems in accessing healthcare, and now you're going to cut us off without moving and looking after each PDG and see that they do only administrative cut. But now they have the green light from the minister. It's an open bar.
Yeah. With respect to, one thing we talked about quite a while ago, with respect to home care and visits there, what has happened with that as far as budgets are concerned? Are those being cut as well? Do you know?
Well, we got the information that in the West Island, the Lac Saint-Louis CLSC is cutting on home care. We have the same stuff in Maisonneuve-Rosemont CLSC, where this is direct cut. And guess what, Aaron? Those people will not receive the services that they need. They're going to get more sick and end up at emergency ward. No, it's terrible, the emergency ward is bad. Yeah, well, maybe you didn't help in diminishing the number of people eventually going to the, home care.
Sure.
Is prevention, Aaron.
Yeah, you end up basically shooting yourself in the foot. You don't end up with these people at home. They end up in a hospital. All that does is, make crowded hospital ERs even more crowded than they already are. It's hard to imagine, Paul, as I hear you describe this, that the government couldn't have figured that part out and instead just says, blanket cuts and, damn the torpedoes, whatever happens, we'll deal with it then.
The reason why I say that we should look over the shoulder of each PDG and see what the cuts are about when they work. I've been a general manager, Aaron, for 30 years in municipalities. And I know when the mayor asked for cuts, I had to look over the shoulder of these guys. Because if you let them go, they're going to cut nowhere around them and the ones that they need and don't want to cut. And eventually cut on services to citizens. This is not what we want. And I've asked the ministry, I've asked Santé Québec's office, I said, are you going to look over the shoulders of these guys and make sure that the cuts are not for patients? Nothing, Aaron, nothing. So the only thing that's important is the balanced budget. Nothing else, Aaron. Unfortunately, that's my conclusion.
All right. Again, pretty grim outlook. I hope the government at some point changes its mind, at least in this particular case that we started by talking about, and saying, you know what, yeah, okay, let these people have, a little bit of joy at that time of the year. Let them enjoy that dinner with their family. We can save money somewhere else. Paul, I thank you so much for the time.
Just to tell you, Aaron, that the ministry's office told me that they were intervening and seeing what's going on.
Well, I hope so. All right.
Okay.
Keep our fingers crossed.